Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons. My name is Justin, and I'm going to be your guide to bringing your favorite League of Legends champions to life in Dungeons and Dragons. Today we're building the goodest top lane doggo, Susan. Before Nasus got his Jackal facelift, he was a brilliant scholar of the Collegium of the Sun. He was brilliant in the art of stratagem and logistics, earning him high praise and respect from the soldiers of the Shuriman military. Decades later, Nasus was afflicted with a wasting disease, causing him brutal pain and agony as his body fell apart on him. The Emperor himself begged Nasus to be taken through the rite of ascension. While Nasus attempted to climb the dais to the sun disk's light, he stumbled and fell. His brother Renekton took Nasus up the rest of the way, even though he believed he would be incinerated by the disk's brilliant light. Instead, both brothers ascended, emerging as godlike beings. Far later in time, the then Emperor Azir attempted ascension as well, when an angered former friend of Azir took his place in the ascension instead and became a being of pure arcane energy. Renekton and Nasus fought Xerath but were unable to defeat him, with Renekton begging Nasus to entomb him and Xerath inside the Tomb of the Emperors. Centuries have gone by and Nasus has learned of Azir's rebirth and the escape of Xerath and Renekton from the tomb. With renewed hope and pride, Nasus walks the land again. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Aasimar. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max strength and dump dexterity. We do have a multi-class requirement of 13 in strength and charisma. Our leveling path is going to be levels 1 through 5 in Paladin, then we'll take some combat lessons with 3 levels in Fighter, then finish the build as a Paladin. Nasus's passive, Soul Eater, will come from Inspiring Smite and Second Wind. His Q, Siphoning Strike, is going to be Divine Smite, which scales as you play with your spellcasting slot levels, Great Weapon Master, and finally Lunging Attack. Our W, Wither, comes from Ray of Frost. His E, Spirit Fire, will come from Flame Strike, and finally we get our ultimate, Fury of the Sands, from Giant's Might and Radiant Consumption. For race, we'll reflect Nasus' ascended form by going with Aasimar. Celestial Resistance will help us in our fight with the Darken by giving us resistance to necrotic and radiant damage. As a self-sustaining Juggernaut, we'll take all the healing options we can get our hands on. Healing Hands is going to let you use an action once per long rest to roll a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus and heal yourself or an ally you're touching. And the final Aasimar feature we'll cover is your Celestial Revelation, which is a minute-long transformation you can activate as a bonus action once you reach 3rd level. We're going Radiant Consumption as our ultimate. You'll unleash brilliant light from your body, or a tightly leashed sandstorm, who's gonna tell. Each creature within 10 feet of you when your turn ends takes radiant damage equal to your proficiency bonus, and once per turn when you deal damage with a spell or attack, you can add extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. For background, Nasus was not only a member of the Collegium of the Sun, but a brilliant military tactician in general as well. With that in mind, Sage or Soldier would work great, but we're going with Sage for his focus on the more scholarly aspects of life. This will give us proficiencies with Arcana and History and the Researcher feature, giving you the ability to divine the best source of information that you're seeking. For stats, we're going for the relative balance Nasus has held in the top lane for the majority of his existence with the standard array. Roll if you want to, but keep at least a 13 in strength and charisma for multi-classing purposes. Since we'll need a strong swing to swat down angry crocodiles, we'll start with a 15 in strength. Then, to survive said confrontation with angry crocodiles, we'll take a 14 in constitution. Charisma is next, for Nasus' leadership and multi-classing of course. Intelligence and Wisdom are interchangeable at 12 and 10, which feel low for Nasus, but we need to smash things unfortunately. And finally, we'll dump Dexterity. For our equipment, you'll want to start off with a set of chainmail for your definitely not Egyptian armor, and a halberd for your war staff, as Riot calls it. Alrighty, we'll start our post-ascension life with a level in Paladin. Since one of our main purposes is to fight the Darken, it'd help if we knew where to find them, which Divine Sense is going to give us. As an action, you can extend your senses to detect any celestial, fiend, or undead within 60 feet of you. Also at this level, you'll get Lay on Hands, which can be used as an action to heal anyone you touch, even yourself, from a pool of hit points equal to 5 times your Paladin level. This can serve as your passive self-heal until we get something better in a few levels. At 2nd level, this build really picks up in damage, from both our fighting style and Divine Smite. Since we're using a two-handed weapon, we'll go with the Great Weapon fighting style, letting us re-roll all 1s and 2s on our damage die. Then we'll get some of our Q with Divine Smite. Divine Smite lets you spend your spell slots when you land an attack, dealing 2d8 radiant damage on top, plus 1d8 for each level spell slot over 1. This is going to be the best we can do in terms of scaling damage, since unfortunately infinitely scaling is not something D&D tends to do. Now at level 3, Paladins gain Divine Health and choose their Sacred Oath. Normally I don't talk about Divine Health, because it's kinda bleh. But with Nasus, his Ascension did cure him of his wasting disease, so being immune to disease is actually pretty relevant to him. Now onto our Oath. With all the victory and conquest the Ascended brought to Shurima, the Oath of Glory is a perfect fit. Not only will this give us our E later on, but it'll give us the best version of our passive with Inspiring Smite. Anytime you deal damage with your Divine Smite, you can use a bonus action and a charge of Channel Divinity to heal yourself, or others technically, for 2d8 plus your Paladin level and hit points, which is a nice chunk of self-heal. 4th level Paladins get their first ability score improvement, so we'll take this chance to go over all of our ideas so you can pick and choose for yourself along the way. At Paladin 4, we'll go with Polearm Master to eke out a little more damage per round for you. With Polearm Master, whenever you take the attack action with your halberd, you can use your bonus action to hit them with the blunt end of it for 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Additionally, whenever a creature enters your reach, they automatically provoke an opportunity attack, letting you really weaponize your reactions. At Paladin 8, we're going to take advantage of the heaviness of our halberd with Great Weapon Master, giving us that extra oomph on top of all the other damage we're dealing. This feat has two parts. The first will let you make an extra weapon attack as a bonus action whenever you crit, or when you reduce a creature to 0 hit points. The other part is like calling your shot, letting you take a -5 to your attack roll to deal 10 flat damage on top of your weapon's damage if you hit. At Paladin 12, we'll get our W, Wither, with Magic Initiate Sorcerer giving us the Ray of Frost cantrip. Ray of Frost is going to fire out a bluish beam of light, or if your DM is awesome, a swarm of debilitating insects that deals 1d8 cold damage and reduces a creature's speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Then finally, at Paladin 16, we'll bump our strength score up 2 points for increased damage and chances to hit. Level 5 Paladins, along with most martial classes, gain extra attack, letting you attack twice per attack action instead of just once. We generally wait to multi-class until this point of a build because of how much additional damage extra attack provides. And that multi-classing is going to take us right over to the fighter class so we can sharpen our skills and learn how to turn into a giant doggo. First level fighters learn a fighting style. Now since Nasus has an auto attack range extension on his ultimate and Q, we're taking superior technique for lunging attack, which will extend our halberd's range out to 15 feet when we use it, adding whatever you roll under your superiority die to the damage. You'll only get one charge per rest, so it's rather limited. Personally, I think the 10 feet reach provided by the halberd is plenty, so if you took defense instead for the +1 AC on your chainmail, I wouldn't blame you. The other feature we get at this level is Second Wind, which is yet another self-heal for you to employ for your passive, letting you heal yourself 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action once per rest. Remember to use this before you spend any hit die on a short rest, or my viewers will come for you. Second level fighters get Action Surge, one of the best features in the game, letting you take an additional action on your turn once per rest. This will come in handy when you gotta defend against your mouth-frothing future pair of shoes of a brother. Then we'll get our ultimate at fighter level 3 thanks to our martial archetype, which is just fancy talk for subclass. We'll go with Rune Knight for the Giant's Might feature. As a bonus action, you can push your ascension to new heights, literally. For a minute, your size increases to large, you have advantage on strength checks and saves, and once on each of your turns, you can deal an extra 1d6 of damage when you hit a target. By the time we reach Paladin level 11, your stacks of Q should be astronomical. We'll help that out with improved Divine Smite, making all of your attacks deal an additional 1d8 radiant damage. Then finally at Paladin 17, we'll channel some AP Nasus with Flame Strike for our E. You twirl your staff and drop it down, calling down a column of celestial energy 40 feet high with a radius of 10 feet. Every creature in the column has to make a dex save or take 46 fire and 46 radiant damage. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. Although we can't infinitely scale in D&D, this build does grow heavily in power over time, and hopefully you'll get similar vibes. Besides, campaigns never last that long to begin with, unfortunately. They'll also make a very good frontline for your team with heavy armor and strong utility. You won't have to just AFK split push. Now the bad. I almost always have to reach for bad things for this section because the game is built around multiple roles, so yeah, technically you have very little magic and very little range capacity, but hey, that's just the game being relatively balanced. Also, we're a little feat heavy, so our ability scores end up lower, but you can always augment that with magical items you find along your journey. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below. As always, these videos wouldn't be possible without our patrons over on Patreon. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and kibble in our bowls. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.